We got that done pretty well. And so let's move into chapter 5, which is working in diverse teams.
Organizations increasingly rely on work teams to hit strategic goals, produce products and services, design new offerings, solve organizational problems, and even lead. And teams show up across every industry today.
So there's a classic definition from Larson and LaFasto's 1989 book, When Teams Work Best. A team is a unit of two or more people who interact and coordinate their work to accomplish a specific goal.
Okay, now let's talk about sex effects. Differences in how men and women behave or experience being on a team. Sex shapes how both teams and members within the team interact and how their behaviors get evaluated by others.
All right, two dimensions of communication style matter, self-assertion and dominance. Okay, self-assertion and dominance tending to be male associated, and deference and warmth tending to be female associated. And two behavior types matter, task behaviors where men devote a somewhat higher share of their communication, and relational social behaviors where women show a higher share of positive social behavior.
Absolutely. And then men tend to get more positive evaluations of their task contributions, which tend to have more influence in mixed sex teams and are more likely to emerge as informal leaders.
So women, on the other hand, tend to devalue their own performance, get judged on a higher standard, and often receive less social support from teammates when recognized as strong performers. So it's almost like a penalty for excelling, unfortunately.
And so here's a striking finding. Women can't just increase their influence in mixed sex teams by acting more assertively the way that men might. And that assertiveness tends to backfire and make a woman less influential, especially with male teammates.
And it can work better among other women, though it's still often perceived as less likable than the same behavior from a man. What seems to work is combining assertiveness with warmth, showing a genuine desire to help the whole group, kind of that androgynous leadership where you have high levels of both masculinity and femininity, something not required of men in the same way, however. So this connects back to the Kathleen Hall Jamison's double bind that we mentioned earlier, and the pressure to be both liked and competent at once.
So now here we have four major work groups. Rosabeth Moss Cantor, back in 1977, studied why so few women made it into upper management. And at the time, women made up only about 2% of managers earning 25,000 or more. And she identified four types of work groups based on sex composition.
At the two extremes, uniform groups, which were all one sex, and balanced groups which had roughly equal numbers of men and women. In between, there were skewed groups where it's the ratio from 85-15 up to nearly 100%. The minority here becomes tokens or seen as representatives of their sex rather than individuals evaluated as such. Tilted groups were running about 65-35 to 85-15, where minorities can start to ally with each other. So this would be where, again, people are judged not on their individual contributions, but as tokens of their representative groups.
So then, how are tokens actually treated? They get seen as representatives of their whole sex rather than just individuals, which brings a kind of special and often detrimental attention. And it hurts their performance and overall sense of belonging.
Tokens face real performance pressures because of their high visibility. Often they have to work harder to get accomplishments recognized. They can be excluded from informal social activities. They may experience direct stereotyping effects. Cantor was especially interested in this group experience because of this.
And so, male versus female tokens, interestingly, the token experience isn't symmetric. Research has shown that women typically experience the negative effects of token status more strongly, and think of this as like a female police officer in a male dominated department.
So men, by contrast, experience token status as an advantage in highly female dominant settings. So think of a male nurse in a female dominated field. Often they are seen really positively. However, men tend to be very negatively sensitive to a shift from a male dominated to a more balanced gender composition.
So, do all male or all female teams actually perform better than mixed teams? Two competing views. And so we have the pessimistic view, which says identification with similar or with others similarly causes people to reject those who differ and leading to factions, conflict, and communication breakdowns.
The optimistic view says that differences among members actually enhance creativity and problem solving, especially on complex and innovative tasks, because diversity increases the interaction and decreases the prejudice and stereotyping over time.
That makes sense. And so, on that note, the honest answer is that the research is mixed. Sex diversity carries both advantages and disadvantages, and the goal for any team leader is to maximize the upside and minimize the downside.
And the importance of situational factors is that a number of these situational factors shape how sex diversity plays out in practice. Team demographic composition, um, how long the team's been together, whether the task is sex neutral and requires cooperation, and the flexibility electronic communication tools may offer.
And so, also, the demographics of the larger organization, sex composition, and top management can influence smaller teams, plus organizational and societal culture. And so, larger tenor teams and teams with more subgroups tend to see fewer negative effects as they are in a more cooperative, inclusive culture, which reduces friction significantly.
Two slides. Okay. So this slide gives us proactive tips for organizations and team leaders. Strive for diverse teams, but don't select members based solely on sex and other demographics. Select for values and skills that support teamwork. Okay. Continuing the list, encourage role and task rotation so everyone builds competencies across areas and reward both team and individual performance.
In addition, train team members to manage team processes and handle stereotyping or friction constructively. Publicize the real qualifications of anyone assigned to lead or join a team, and coach leaders specifically on drawing out diverse viewpoints while disencouraging dysfunctional dynamics.
And finally, tips for team members specifically. Understand how your own sense of identity shapes your interaction with others and guard against your own stereotype and prejudice as you evaluate teammates' behavior.
To add, build genuinely good relationships with your teammates. If you're in the majority group, don't subject minority teammates to extra performance pressure or exaggerate the differences between your group and theirs. If you're in the minority group, take active steps to build your own influence and guard against internalizing limiting stereotypes.
So that wraps up chapter 5 and the full chapters 3 through 5 sequence. We hope you're enjoying reading Powell, and we'll be back with chapter 6 and 7.